So let us start building our application. We will start with developing our smart contracts using the Hardhat framework. For the development environment, we need Node, NPM, and VS Code for code editing. Let us create a directory and open it in VS Code. Create a new folder named Hardhat and open it in terminal. First, we'll initialize a Node project. We'll go with the defaults for the config. Now install Hardhat. Then initialize a Hardhat project. We'll go with the empty Hardhat config option. And we'll finish off the setup with installing the Hardhat Toolbox module. We can confirm Hardhat and Hardhat Toolbox is installed by checking the package.json. Now let us open the Hardhat config file and import the Hardhat Toolbox module. This module equips us with all the necessary tools for testing and deploying contracts. We'll save the file. Along with that, we'll enable the autosave feature of VS Code. Next, let us create our contract folder and our contract file named storage.sol. One thing, before writing the code, if you want to have the code formatting or IntelliSense for Solidity, install this VS Code extension from Nomic Foundation, the same people who built Hardhat. Okay, we'll start with our license and version of the Solidity language we are going to use. Just make sure the version we use here is the same as the one we have in the Hardhat config file. And let us create a contract named storage, inside which we will have an event called stored with the two string parameters, one indexed for searchability. Then we'll have a mapping for storing any key value data, and we will name it collections. It will be set to public visibility to ensure we have a getter function for it, created by the Solidity compiler. Then a function named store with the two input parameters of the type string. In its body, we will store the data from the input parameters to the collection mapping and trigger the stored event. That covers the contract we need for our use case. Now let us compile it to make sure we have no issue with the code. If we take a look at the file explorer, we can see a new folder has been created. This contains the output for compiling our smart contract. Now let us create a folder ignition and a subfolder modules, inside which let us create a JS file which contains the details for deploying the contract using the ignition module. Now here we will import the build module and we'll use it to build the deployment module for our storage contract. We'll get the contract details by passing in the name of the contract to the contract function, which knows that contract details are located in the artifacts folder inside the storage.json file to be precise. We'll return the object containing the contract details. Now we need to deploy our contract, for which we'll run the Hardhat node, which will simulate an Ethereum node. During the development, we'll use the simulation rather than an actual Ethereum network. Here we can see the node is running at localhost port 8545 and it has accounts with the pre-funded Ether for testing purposes. Now we'll configure the Hardhat to connect to this node at the time of deployment. So open up Hardhat config file, add a new section networks. Within that, add another section called localhost with the property URL and value being the JSON RPC URL of the Hardhat node we just ran. We will set this as the default network to be connected to when we deploy the contract. Finally, we deploy the contract to the node using the ignition module. There we have it. We have deployed the contract and we can see the deployed address both in the terminal logs and in the deployed address JSON in the deployment folder. In the next video, we'll test the smart contract using the Hardhat framework. Signing off.